Okay, great. I just already got into your bio, Deepak. So I just first want to ask you, how has the pandemic been for you?
I've reinvented my recognized role and have a new vision for myself and for humanity. So it's treated me very well.
Oh, okay, great. And what are some of those nuances that have come up due to this experience?
Unless we wake up from our insanity, uh, humanity is sleepwalking itself to extinction.
And what insanity are you referring to specifically?
War, terrorism, eco destruction, poison in the food chain, extinction of species, climate change, unrestrained mutations because we don't even look at the environment. So, cyber hacking, uh, any one of those things that I mentioned is enough to cause our extinction.
Is there a fundamental prescription for this? Like, is there a way to deal with this based on one fundamental rule? If we could put it into practice somehow, I would say skepticism. That would be my answer. Continue to question anything. That's what I think skepticism is. But what do you think? What is a fundamental rule we can start with to turn the tides?
Skepticism is healthy, cynicism is dangerous.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so skepticism says, show me the evidence. That's very healthy. But it's not the solution because even that which we call science and scientific facts and empirical facts, it doesn't change anything. How many people know about climate change? How have we changed anything so far? Have we taken any action? How many people talk about the destruction of the microbiome or the insanity of war or the insanity of terrorism or the insanity of nuclear weapons or the insanity of any form of violence and mechanized death? Skepticism is not going to help you there. You need facts and you need a good emotional story to transform the world. Otherwise, nothing will happen.
But isn't
Fact,
isn't skepticism a good avenue to those things?
it's a good start.
Fundamental. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's a good
Because
start. Very good start.
I would say you may not get to those things that you were talking about if you're unable to continue to question anything, including all the emergent properties of your mind.
Yeah. Emergent evolution of mind. Yes. But I'm not here to argue about skepticism. All I
Sure.
want is there a way to move beyond our insanity, which is headed for extinction? Is there a way to create a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world? The answer is skepticism, and science is not the answer. What the answer is a story that inspires people for personal and social transformation, where they see that their only role in this world as human beings is to expand their self awareness. So they question everything, including their scientific beliefs, including their skepticism.
Yeah.
Because what we call empirical facts are a species specific mode of knowing that comes from experience and consciousness. So we say emergent properties of the mind. No, emergent properties on how we look at reality, because mind is not emergent, nor is consciousness emergent. There's no way atoms and molecules and force fields and gravity can explain why we're having this conversation or why we're having these thoughts or
Right.
why we believe in what we believe. Even atoms, molecules, and force fields are human constructs for modes of knowing and experience in consciousness for which we have no explanation, period. It's called the hard problem of
Yep.
consciousness.
I agree. We don't have a working theory right now. And what leads you to believe that your hypothesis is the correct answer, or is worthy of your positive belief?
I don't, at this moment in my life, I'm questioning everything, including my identity. When I look at Deepak Chopra, I can't find a guy there because everything that I call Deepak is a past history. And that past history is flimsy, I would say, evanescent wisps of experience and threads of desire that I've identified myself with. And then I want to prove that I'm right. And as I get to where I am at 75 years, I realize that we know nothing about matter. We know nothing about energy. We know nothing about information. We can use these constructs to create conversations on Zoom, but and to create good technology,
When you
But
say we know nothing, do you mean we don't know the fundamental, let's say, computational rule that gives
no,
rise?
no, 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 no,
Like,
no.
what do you mean by that?
We don't know who we are. We don't know why we exist. We don't know if human perception is accurate. After all, my perception tells me the earth is flat. Nobody believes that anymore. My perception tells me that this ground is stationary. I know it's spinning at dizzying speeds and hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour. My perception tells me I have a body or a mind, but that's also a human construct for an experience. All I experience is sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, and perceptions, and none of them are reliable. Every observation I have, every construct I have, every theory I have, every perception I have is based on magical lies, because perception itself is a magical lie. It's species specific. What does the world look like to an insect with 100 eyes? What does it look like to a bat? What does it look like to a chameleon in eyeballs swivel on two different axes? Why do you think human perception is the only accurate perception?
I don't think anyone would claim that, though, would they?
No, but
That human
scientists
perception is the only accurate perception. I think I
No,
hear zoologists talk about this all the time, where they're like, it's hard for us to understand what the perception of a dog is.
that's right. Then how do we think our perception of anything is real? Anything
Oh,
is
well. I think we can say, like, the way I think about reality. I take it with a grain of salt, because I think that we live in a deterministic causal chain of events where I am given this illusion of free will that I play in. Do you agree with that?
Travis, I want to know what you refer to when you say I. Who do you refer to when you say I?
I When I say
Your
I,
brain, to your mind, to your education, to your religious conditioning, to your scientific
I would
conditioning.
say all of
What do you mean?
yeah, I would say all that stuff, simply everything that falls under the label of my name, which would include my biological formation and again, I would say the emergent qualities of my mind.
So everything that falls under your name is provisional,
I agree.
temporary, unreliable, and a
Ooh,
construct.
unreliable based on what metric, though?
Unreliable based on, if you don't know who you are and you're confusing yourself with your conditioned mind and your body and your scientific education or your religious indoctrination or any dogma, then you're fooling yourself. I
I
don't know who I am.
I
If
think
you ask me who I am, I say I don't know.
I think are you talking more about, like, trying to get an objective, because you brought up the why question, like why are we here? Isn't it possible that that's a bad question, like, from an objective sense?
It could be a bad question, but then science tries to elucidate mechanisms. And you just told me you look at linear progression of logical thought to rely on what you call truth, objective truth. But I don't believe in that concept. My body right now, which has 60 trillion cells, more than all the stars in the Milky Way galaxy, is digesting food, regulating its immune system, endocrine system, heart rate, thinking thoughts. None of that is linear. How does a human body think thoughts, play a piano, kill germs, remove toxins, make a baby all at the same time, while monitoring the movement of stars and planets as its own biological rhythm? So it's a mystery. And I don't think the mystery can be solved.
So is that not cynical, though, to say that you don't think the mystery can be solved because we haven't gotten there yet? Isn't that cynical?
No, it's come after a lot of thought, Travis. It's come after 50 years of self reflection, which led me to believe today that I don't know anything.
And when you say you don't know anything, if we can just talk
about
from
reality.
the right
About,
from
about reality.
right. So the epistemological standard of truth. Are you saying that because you cannot be certain, let's say 100% certain about something, does that make you say you can't know anything? Because I don't think we can be 100% certain about anything, but I think that means that we need to dial down the amount of certainty we need in that truth triangle of our epistemological triangle. I think we can still claim that we know that, quarks exist.
We know that quarks are a human construct for a human mode of knowing and experience in human consciousness. They're a relative truth. They're a map. There's no such thing as a quark. There's no such thing as matter. There's no such thing as mind. And there's no such thing as anything. It's always, at all times, a field of possibilities. And depending on your conditioned mind, you experience a particular reality which you think is truth. But the more I learn about what I know, the more I realize I know nothing other than I exist. And I don't know why I exist either.
So would you subscribe to, I think, therefore I am being a perfect tautology?
No, not never.
Okay, I agree.
I am, therefore I think. You have to be before you think.
Yeah, and how do you know you are?
Just the fact that I exist and that I'm aware of my existence. That's it. That's it. No more than that. The only thing I can be sure of is there is something that I call I, but it's not Deepak Chopra. It knows what Deepak Chopra is, whatever it is. And as the more it knows Deepak Chopra, the less it believes in Deepak Chopra.
Mm.
So for me, the only truth is there is existence and there is awareness of existence. The rest is whatever magical lie you want to believe in.
You call it a lie. I would maybe call it ignorance, moving ignorance.
So same thing, magical lie, the veil of ignorance, Maya, illusion, subjective reality, doesn't matter. What we call the objective universe is a species-specific agreement on our perceptual experiences, period. If you say there's an objective world independent of your mind, well, what is it?
Well, is there not? I mean, as a MD, you understand the practicality of trying to tap into objective reality just from the simple sense of like sugar pills are objectively not the best thing to give someone who's suffering from stage 4 skin cancer, right? There will be other things that are objectively better.
So what we're talking about, Travis, is what we call category errors. Okay. So when I deal with the human biology, I know that whatever I've learned about human biology or science in general, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, whatever, physics, quantum mechanics, these are human constructs and they're very useful. Okay.
So they're human constructs, but you said before you didn't know.
No, what I don't know is fundamental truth. I know.
Fundamental truth. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
I don't know fundamental truth. I know human constructs, and I know that human constructs are very useful for both divine and diabolical purposes. If I know human constructs of biology and how medicine works, in certain cases I can heal people, but in certain cases I can hurt people. So I don't care whether it's nocebo or placebo. All I want to know is how to make a person feel better. But in the deeper reality, I feel that we are all fictional characters on a collective dreamscapes, and in the end, it doesn't matter to the universe, whatever happens, even extinction. Dinosaurs disappeared a long time ago. Nobody cares. And we disappeared.
I care. I want to hang out with the Triceratops.
Yeah, but Travis, you're a fictional character in a collective dreamscape speaking to another fictional character, and fictional characters can argue till the end of the time.
If you mean by that we're engaging in this illusion, I totally agree with you on that. Like, I think this idea of free will, me moving my hands like this, I don't think I came up with that. I think it's happening to me within this illusion.
Yeah, free will is a human construct, and it's a good illusion to have.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
right now, what are you doing to regulate your heart rate, your blood pressure, your heart rate variability, your digestion, even your thoughts? You're doing nothing. You just
Exactly. I agree.
every thought, everything that you say to me is already been said by somebody. There's no one who has an original thought, maybe an Einstein once in a while, and in the end, they turn out to be wrong. Every construct we've had has been invalidated. That's the basis of science, falsification.
Do you believe that thoughts happen to us? We're not dictating anything in our mind?
I think thoughts recycle through us through the collective mind. Yes. Unless there's a totally original thought, Gödel's theorem or something like that.
So, you said collective mind. What does that mean?
This mind that you and I are speaking right now, we have rules of grammar. We have rules of we have rules of what we mean by certain words. So we are following certain rules that are accepted by the collective mind. We're speaking in English, which has certain connotations that, say, Swahili or Chinese doesn't have. There are things in English that are nouns that are verbs in other languages. So everything we are saying right now is an agreement of the collective mind. The mind has no location. The mind is not in your brain. The mind is embodied and relational. It's a process. And it's an embodied and relational process that is regulating how we perceive the world. Now, you might be perceiving it differently, and I might be perceiving it differently, and we can argue forever. But there are certain things we agree on, and that is
Yeah.
maybe this is the color red, but actually there's no color there either. That's also an experience in consciousness. There's no color in your brain. So where is the color?
Well,
It's very, existence is too mysterious for any one of us to be dogmatic about it.
but isn't like I understand that we're gonna look at the consistent relation of reality and try to make sense of it. Isn't that what science is? And red, we actually like we will make stoplights red. So within a certain context,
Very useful.
there is red. It's useful in that context. But I think what you're talking about is on the greater context. We have a hard time saying, okay, that is objectively red because red is more of an experience. Is that kind of what you're getting?
If there is a reality outside of our awareness of it, we'll never know it. Okay, we'll never know it. So to me, awareness and existence are similar. Awareness is existence. Now, how we interpret awareness is what creates politics. And there's also a difference between science and what I call scientism. So science is a methodology. Okay, science is a methodology. Observation. Where is observation made? In consciousness. Experiments designed. Where are they designed? In consciousness. Experiments in consciousness. Validation in consciousness. Falsification in consciousness. So there's no science in the absence of consciousness for which we have no explanation. Now, there's a difference between scientists who understand this and people like Richard Dawkins, who I call apostles of scientism, which is a religion. Scientism is.
That hurts my heart. Richard's one of my
It's
heroes.
okay, listen, but it's true. He's a dogmatic, religious, ideological apostle of scientism.
But why is he? But what does he say specifically that you think is dogmatic? Because Richard would say, we don't know that this working model is. We are certain that this is the best model, and we can always upgrade things and throw models away. Isn't that the opposite of dogma?
Listen, I've argued with Richard.
I know you have.
Yes, okay, and he's even blocked me on Twitter. His blood pressure goes up when he sees me. So
Yeah,
I find
yeah.
okay. So, and he even had a stroke after that. So I don't want to,
Ooh, yeah.
I don't want to bruise him more. But I think Richard is the best example of a religious fundamentalist, in my opinion. But I'm not going to argue about that anymore.
Yeah.
Let him be what he is. He deserves his peace, and let me be what I am.
I have a question about that whole thing. So Sam
So
Harris.
block me from Twitter. Just
yeah.
let me tell you, when I quoted Freeman Dyson
Yeah.
to him in the debate, he said, "Oh, Freeman Dyson never said that. He should sue you." So I wrote to Freeman Dyson. I said, "Are you going to sue me? Because I quoted you exactly as I did. Dr. Dawkins thinks you should sue me." And actually, Freeman sent the most elegant response to me. I was blown away by it. He said, "Three riddles have puzzled me all my life. One is," and the first one he said, "is the unpredictable movement of particles." He didn't say random, he said unpredictable, which was very clever and very sharp. Second is a universe fine tuned for mind and consciousness. And third is our own consciousness. Then he said, "I don't know the answers to these riddles, but I think they're somewhat connected." And you know what? I treasure that email from a great scientist. Dawkins didn't bother to respond to him, didn't bother to respond to me, and turned me off Twitter. I can't even tweet him now, because he gets so upset.
I have to ask you about like, okay, so there's Richard, there's Sam Harris, there's Joe Rogan, there's all these guys that get so triggered by the way you use language, the way you talk about things. Yeah, why do you think that is? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, because they think I'm a pseudoscientist. They think science is the answer to all questions. And I think they are pseudoscientists because science cannot answer. Science can't tell me who I am, why I exist, why is there a universe, why I fall in love, why I fear death, why I'm jealous, why I'm magnanimous at times, why I'm unpredictable, why I'm full of contradictions, why I'm paradoxical. That's me.
So Sam Harris would actually agree with a lot of what you said with regards to, like, you can't get an ought from an is. Right?
Yeah.
So Sam Harris would not disagree with you on that.
I have no respect for Sam Harris either, or these guys, because they bounce all over the place. Sam Harris talks about waking up, and he's a total physicalist. When I think matter itself is a human construct for a perceptual activity in consciousness. That's my view. Accept it or leave it. It doesn't matter.
Okay, I got a question about...
Listen, in 15 years, I'll be dead. And in a few more years, you'll be dead as well. Sure. These are irrelevant arguments. All we want to do is, how can we work together to create a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world?
I agree. That's a good goal.
If we can use science to tell a good story, then let's do it. If we can use emotions to tell a good story, let's do it. Right now, we have a situation in America where you have the highest number of vaccines available, and still people are dying. So there's so much illogical decision making on every side that nobody looks at the context. Nobody even asks, why do you believe what you believe? When I was growing up in India, I saw my friends dying of polio. I saw them paralyzed. I saw people dying of tuberculosis. I saw people scarred for life from smallpox. So you can't tell me that vaccines don't work.
Right.
Okay. I saw it, right?
Look, I share your sentiments with regards
right now,
to...
when I see all this total insanity in our world, every decision comes from either an ideology, I'm right, the scientific method is the only method, the other methods are stupid. The fact is, we actually should only take in what works, and what doesn't work, you discard it. And if something works for you that doesn't work for me, God bless you, or whatever, the unified field should support you, or gravity, or whatever you want to call the mystery of existence. Go with it. Okay, but we have not solved the mystery of existence. And if existence is fundamental awareness, we will never solve it, because we are trying to find explanations for how we think by looking at what we call the objective world, when everything that we call the objective world is also a subjective experience. So it's so complex that we can never argue this out in a debate. And I've stopped debating. In fact, the only reason I agreed to speak to you was I want to tell you, you're right, guys. If that makes you happy, be right.
Well, I do want people to be happy as well, but I do also think that it's important to discuss ideas because we want to illuminate the ideas that are good from a well-being perspective for humanity. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
Okay. Yeah. And look, Sam Harris and I share the same moral foundation in that we wish to
I
maximize
don't give a
well-being.
shit about Sam Harris, so don't even talk about him.
Well, what is it? Okay.
He's a hypocrite. He's a cunning hypocrite.
Okay, I'll talk about my moral foundation then.
You are a kid, so I have hope for you. But these guys, one day they are saying there's no heart problem. Second day there's a heart problem. Waking up is his podcast, and he's talking about consciousness in one way, one day in another way. They can't bless him. Let him do what he wants. I'm not interested.
Okay, I don't want to trigger you with saying uttering.
You're making me find this very funny. I'm not arguing with you.
Okay.
Whatever you say comes out of your conditioned mind. Whatever I say comes out of my conditioned mind. I don't know who's right, who's wrong, and I don't actually care.
How do you solve moral dilemmas? What's your moral foundation?
My moral foundation is only one: non-violence.
Non-violence.
Period. I don't have any other moral dogmas, because when people share the same values, and then they agree. If you don't share the same values, you don't agree. So for me, the only morality is empathy, compassion, peace, equanimity, love. But love in action. Love without action is meaningless. It's a sentiment. And action without love is irrelevant. So love in action is the good way to go. And, so my moral imperative is what has been said eternally: treat others as you would have them treat you. And I haven't done that in my life, and I'm ready to do that as I get to my fourth chapter. And so in my life, in my tradition, there are 4 chapters. First 25 years education, second just 25 years fame and fortune, third 25 years giving back, and fourth 25 years trying to figure out who you are and let it be. Stop arguing, stop being ideological, stop being right.
Right.
That's where I am at the moment.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want to be right, because
don't you think it's better? Like I like the nonviolence thing, but I also like something that's going to drive you to want to help others. And that's why I say maximize well-being for myself and those around me. I think it's hard to maximize well-being for others if you don't make yourself well first. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I agree with you. I'm 75. My blood pressure is 100/70. I don't take any medicines. I've never been to a doctor, although I'm a licensed doctor in the state of Massachusetts, in the state of California. I head an integrative practice. I'm the best example of health, because I wake up every morning with the intention of a joyful, energetic body, love and compassion in my heart, clear, non-argumentative mind these days, and lightness of being. And if I can help other people achieve that, I've done a good job as a physician.
Right. Well, I think, that's great. I think whenever we can maximize well-being, and I know physicians and people in the medical community, that when I talk about well-being, that's what I point to. Like I talk some way that we can measure wellness of mind, like in psychology. I don't know how you feel about psychology, but biological well-being is what I refer to.
Yeah, so I'm on the board of Gallup, which does a lot of studies on well-being. So I have developed some of their hypotheses and their measurements for well-being. So we look at career well-being, we look at physical well-being, we look at emotional well-being, we look at financial well-being, we look at community well-being, and we are now beginning to look at spiritual well-being as all the buckets of well-being. So well-being is very important. But if you speak only of biological well-being, you could be a little bit on grounds that are not really even scientific. All you have to do is watch a commercial on network TV, any commercial. Take this for your migraine. It could cause impotence. It could kill you, and everything in between. But ask your doctor. And meanwhile, There's beautiful music being played. They're playing tennis, and
Yeah.
they're taking what do you call Ciala or whatever for their penile dysfunction, and they're being told they could get a heart attack at the same time.
Right.
What kind of message is that?
Well, to some people, sex is everything.
Yeah, it's the insanity is every commercial works because people go and ask their doctor, will you prescribe this to me? Now, I'm telling you, my cholesterol is less than 100. I've never taken an anti-cholesterol drug. Okay, my blood pressure is 110 over 70.
I think it's all that meditation.
I can decrease my heart rate to less than 50 just through meditation. So why would I try to convince myself and you that there's only one way? We live in this society where instant gratification. You can't believe you with the whole thing, take an Alka-Seltzer. You can't sleep, take a sedative. You're feeling anxious, take a tranquilizer. You have whatever, take this antibiotic. Never mind that next antibiotic, it'll be resistant and you'll have nosocomial. Right now, the commonest cause of infection and death is going to a hospital. Other than a hospital, other than a prison, a hospital is the most dangerous place you can go to. I've never been to one other than to teach medical students. I teach medical students at the University of California. I'm starting a program in University of Central Florida. I have an appointment in Mount Sinai Medical School. I don't say you shouldn't do this or do it. Whatever works, do it. And for you, if a placebo works, do it, my friend, because in many cases, placebos work better than drugs. And why do they work? That's another mystery. You can block with placebo effects through certain drugs, which means that placebos also produce endogenous healing responses. And so do nocebos. They produce the other response, which is you don't respond to a legitimate treatment because you don't believe in it. So it's a mystery. Don't try to figure out the mystery. Do what works for you.
I have one thing to say about the hospitals. Someone who's in a motor vehicle accident, though, you would agree that a hospital isn't the most dangerous place for them to go.
When would I not agree? I worked for years in an emergency room.
I know, but when you say hospitals are this bad place like that, it leads people to
the highest risk of getting infection, the highest risk of suicide, the highest risk of depression is amongst people in the healthcare field. I deal with physician burnout. It's the highest case of suicide is psychiatrists, my friend. The highest case of depression, alcoholism, addiction is doctors. You have to be in that environment to see sirens going on, codes going on. You're cutting people up, you're rescuing people. You feel good about it. You even get an adrenaline rush out of it. And at the end of it, you're the one who's feeling sick. I deal with these people all the time. I still advise people in the emergency room. I'm an integrative doctor. I'm a trained endocrinologist, a trained neuroendocrinologist. I keep up with my licenses and my CMEs so I can know what's going on in the field, but I don't necessarily buy into every antibiotic prescribed, every surgical procedure. You go to a cardiologist, you go to a cardiac surgeon, he's going to do heart surgery. That's how he makes money. You go to a baker, that's how they sell you bread. So I tell my patients, question everything your doctor is saying, go on Google, do your research, make him feel uncomfortable. And then if he convinces you that the right treatment is it, then cooperate with him. But doctors these days, they don't have any knowledge about what the patient is. They don't have even 5 minutes to talk to a patient. Just make a diagnosis, get a prescription, get the heck out of here in 10 minutes. Okay? That's not how you treat a human being. So I have my own issues with the medical profession, and I'm part of it. I'm a member of the American Medical Association. I'm a fellow of the American College of Physicians. I'm certified in endocrinology and metabolism. I know everything, but I don't necessarily agree with everything. I agree with some of it. Yes, if you have a gunshot wound or an appendicitis or a pneumonia, meditation is not going to help you.
Yeah. Oh, I think, and that's good. And that's good to clear that up.
It's not even a thing to argue about.
So when people straw man you, I guess, by saying like your idea of quantum healing and idea of like curing yourself of certain ailments like diseases. Would that be a straw man of your position of what quantum healing is? Like, what is quantum healing?
I spoke to Dawkins about it. I said, it's a metaphor like anything else. Even
Okay.
quantum mechanics is a metaphor like anything else. You don't like it, okay, attack me. But I wrote Quantum Healing in 1988. I was vilified by the American medical establishment. I reissued Quantum Healing the last year. And guess who wrote the foreword? The head of neuroscience at Harvard Medical School. Because when I was writing about quantum healing, we knew nothing about epigenetics. We knew nothing about how the microbiome works. There was no science, but I knew from seeing my patients that they responded unpredictably. And I also knew from seeing my patients that if they felt secure, they responded better. I could have two patients, one die, one recover completely with exactly the same treatment, same doctor, same medicine, same everything, two different outcomes. So I wrote Quantum Healing. Now, 35 years later, it's reissued with a foreword by the head of genetics at Harvard Medical School.
So, okay, yeah. No, I think that's
great.
Great.
My answer to quantum healing.
That gives me a clear picture.
I asked Richard if he had read Quantum Healing. No, but he didn't like the word, so he attacked me. It's fine. So, and at that time, by the way, I felt very resentful. Now I don't.
So, and a question would be like, why is it quantum healing and not just healing?
Okay.
Like, why the quantum?
Quantum refers to very subtle levels of experience.
Okay, so you're using it in that way. Okay.
In the way, for example, a quantum in physics is defined as the smallest unit in which waves of energy are emitted and absorbed. That's the physics definition. Okay? The smallest unit in which waves of energy, I would add something, waves of energy and information are emitted and absorbed. So I was using thought and the absence of thought. You see, because we have thought, but between every two thoughts, you have an absence of thought. So one thought could be, I love my mother. And the next thought could be, I wonder what the stock market is doing today. That between this thought and this thought is no thought. And it's unmanifest, but it's real. So as we approach subtler levels of experience, they become, in my mind, quantum in that they're not easily measurable objectively. So I cannot measure a thought. I cannot measure an experience. I cannot measure an emotion. I can see its neural correlates, but it doesn't tell me anything. The neural correlates of experience do not explain experience, right?
You're talking about the metaphysical, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about the metaphysical. So metaphysical is the basis of what we call physical. First, we have to have an idea of what we're looking for. Then we go find experiments and we say, oh, that's a quark. Before it's a quark, it's an experience. And the experience is not in the brain, it's in consciousness. And we have no idea what consciousness is.
So you think our sense-making apparatus are creating these things as opposed to our sense-making apparatus coming into contact with objective reality or nature?
That's it.
Okay. So now, well, why do you think so many neuroscientists or biologists think otherwise? Like they think that we're actually just, even though our sense-making apparatus may not be giving us a true, an absolutely true depiction of what's going on, but they're at least pulling from something in reality, like an object being in my way, and that object happens to be a tree that looks that way to me, but it's maybe not tree-like in its truest form.
Just like your body is not body-like in its truest form, both the tree and your body are made of the same stuff, which is non-stuff. And that's where this deeper understanding comes in. Everything that you call stuff comes from non-stuff. That's the metaphysics. Now, how we interpret that, we create our own version of science. And most people think my version of science is pseudoscience, and that's fine.
So if all life no longer exists, if we could switch it off right now, switch the light switch of life off, is there still matter?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
How would you
But hang
prove
on,
that?
hang on.
How
But
would you prove that? Let's say,
I don't think you could prove it. But
yeah,
wouldn't
okay,
it?
so
But,
then that science says I want proof or validation or falsification. An observer independent world cannot be verified or falsified. Period.
but we can
And that's,
say,
by the way, that philosophy in science is called naive realism. So in my view, even Einstein was a naive realist. And it's not a condescending word. Naive realism simply means that the physical world exists exactly as perceived by the five human senses and would continue to exist as perceived by the five human senses if no sentient being existed. That's
but
naive
Einstein
realism.
didn't say exactly, right?
No. Einstein is a naive realist, which is another word for scientific realism. If you're open to it, I will send you at the end of this conversation a talk I gave only less than 1 month ago at
Yeah, I would love to see it.
the Brain Mapping Society, which is just about this, the case against reality.
Yeah, I'll share it with everyone across.
Would you,
all the networks.
if you promise to share
Yes,
it,
I
I'll
promise.
send it to
Yep.
you. So again, it's called the case against reality and naive realism. Okay.
Case against reality. Okay, very cool.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's when I think of Einstein and how he was thinking, like I think he had a good understanding of like our sense-making apparatus are not going to be perfect, and they're not going to give us the perfect answers, but they're going to give us like some kind of illusionary example of what objective reality is, or at least if you don't want to call it objective reality, at least the thing that we're attempting to measure through the scientific method, because we're trying to measure something, aren't we?
We're measuring our experiences.
Oh, okay. So you believe we're measuring our own experiences. Okay. Interesting.
That's it. So listen, do me a favor.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I don't want to convince you that you're wrong, but you are, in my view. But I don't want to convince you. But I will send you two things. One, I'll send you my book called You Are the Universe. Okay? That book has a conversation in the first chapter between Einstein and a great Indian sage, if I may say. His name was Rabindranath Tagore. So the two are Nobel laureates. One's in science and the other's in literature. They met in 1930 and they talked about exactly what you and I speak about right now. At the end of it, Einstein conceded to Tagore, science is my religion. For that, he has huge respect from me. The greatest scientist in the world said, science is my religion, and it works.
Well, I would say Einstein was just dead wrong about that.
Okay, if you say so.
I just think that, like, for anyone to refer to science as a religion, like the process is like, where are the similarities?
Travis,
someone doing bad, someone doing like something that isn't science. I understand there are some scientists out there engaging with this dogma that you're talking about. There's a problem.
Listen to me, please. Science is a methodology. Science is a methodology, period.
Yes.
Don't go further than that. Science is a methodology that works, period.
And that's an amazing thing, right? I don't think that's like a...
That's a huge tribute and testimony to human consciousness, that it created a methodology that works. Okay? Human consciousness created a methodology that works. And let's stop there. What existence is, what reality is, science has no idea. It's naive realism. And I will send you three things. I'll send you a book. I'll send you the conversation between Einstein and Tagore, and I'll send you the case against reality. And then if you want, we can have another conversation.
Right. I just want to get Iron Charioter's comment in on YouTube. Says science has a self-correcting mechanism. Religions do not. Isn't the peer review process in science like the thing that makes it different than a dogma?
Yeah, peer reviewed just means that you're bamboozled by the same constructs, and religious people are bamboozled by the same constructs. You will never convince a religious ideologue that the virgin birth is a metaphor and the resurrection of Christ is a metaphor. And you'll never convince a hardcore scientist that science is a metaphor.
I think
also.
Jordan Peterson has convinced a lot of people of that metaphor, but
Okay.
yeah, who knows?
It's moot.
Have you talked to Peterson, by the way?
No.
No? Oh, okay. He would be an interesting guy for you to have a conversation with.
You know, right now, actually, I'm only interested in conversations because they're fun. I'm not interested.
I agree.
I'm not interested in being right. I don't even know where ideas come from, but I can tell you they're not produced by electrochemistry. Electrochemistry is produced by ideas.
So do you claim to know that?
No, it's my experience.
Okay.
It's my experience. I can
believe
change
that.
I change what? No, I don't believe in anything. Belief is a cover up for insecurity.
Oh.
All belief is a cover up for insecurity. But I have faith, and that's different. Faith is being sure of the invisible me, without which nothing visible is possible.
Okay, well that's different. That's different than how I see faith. Like faith to me,
I
is
know
an excuse.
you're very conventional.
Well, yeah, people. I'm pragmatic. Like when I
I
see
see
people,
pragmatic and conventional, and that works for most people. It doesn't work for somebody who's experiencing at some point what you will experience at some point: old age, infirmity, and death. And then recognize how peaceful, how joyful you are. That will be a testimony to how well you've lived your life, not your scientific beliefs or your religious beliefs.
Death makes me want to go to God.
No, death makes life possible. Without death, there is no life.
Without death,
there's a principle in biology called apoptosis, programmed cellular death. When a cell forgets to die, it's called cancer. So death is the fundamental reality of existence, without which there would be no life, and all of us would be doomed to eternal senility.
That may be the case, but couldn't you think of a life form that could evolve that won't die?
The question is, what is the identity of that life form? An amoeba theoretically doesn't die. It reproduces itself forever unless it dies of an accident. There are many microorganisms theoretically don't die. Asexual reproduction ensures theoretical immortality.
So in a world with just these microorganisms, they wouldn't that prove that theory that death is a necessity wrong?
You have to be a scientist to know what I'm talking about, because even your biology, 99.99% of it is microbes. You're just a few human cells hanging on to a bacterial colony, and you take yourself to be so important when you're just a host for bacteria multiplying themselves.
Okay. Yeah. No, I understand all that. I'm not sure. I guess I can.
There is no life in the absence of death, period. Otherwise, everything we know as life came from life, and whatever we know that came from life, that particular life form is dead now. You, as an infant, are dead now. You, as a zygote, are dead now. You, as a teenager, are dead now. Yeah, what happened yesterday is gone. It doesn't exist. When Wittgenstein, the great German philosopher, said, "Our life is a dream," we are asleep, but once in a while we wake up enough to know that we're dreaming. So even by the time you hear my words, they don't exist. So all you're experiencing is your past and your interpretation of your past. You call it reality. That's how bamboozled we are by our constructs. There's no death, there's no birth, there's only existence having an experience, period. How you interpret is based on your conditioned mind. The mind could be conditioned by science, by religion, by economics, by mythology, by ancestors, by living in the forest or living on Wall Street. None of it is true.
Interesting. That's there's a lot to think about there for me. I
would like to, instead of trying to be right and arguing with people about skepticism, just take a little moment to see what these thinkers for thousands of years, these arguments have been going on since Plato and Aristotle. Plato
Yeah.
was the first idealist, Aristotle was the first scientist, and they never agreed. And we're still having the same arguments.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at it, Deepak, but I think like a lot of our human history, people were driven by faith, and I see faith as an excuse. Like I don't see it as a good reason for believing
I'm not
anything.
using the word faith as you. I'm saying faith in your existence and the mystery of existence and the fact that existence is not material. I know that from my personal experience. I can feel my existence without any perceptual activity, without any thought. I still exist. I
Which is a
exist.
bamboozlement, though, right?
Huh?
Which is a bamboozlement because you've already mentioned that.
Any experience is a bamboozlement. The
So
only thing that is not a bamboozlement is awareness, period. It's the common ground of every experience in every species, whether an amoeba or a lion or a tiger or a leaf. If it has sentience, it is aware. But what it experiences is different. So
mm,
the experience of a caterpillar is not my experience. The experience of a butterfly is not my experience, but I can say they're having experiences. And there are leaky margins because when I attack them, they flee.
right,
So they must be experiencing something.
yeah,
So I can say with certainty that there is experience. What it means, I don't know. Okay, and I'm good with that. I'm
yeah,
good with that. I don't have to fight. I just want to be happy and I want to make other people happy. And if somebody gets better with a placebo and somebody gets a heart attack with a unnecessary bypass, you
right.
know, and by the way, the commonest surgery in heart disease now is bypass and angioplasty. Less than 1% people benefit from them in terms of lifestyle. And we spend $400 billion every year, and nobody's talking about it.
Mm.
They're talking about who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah, if that's the case, I mean, it should be talked about more, right? I would
Yeah,
agree with you on that.
we need to talk about not who's right, not who's wrong, but how can we together work, scientists, non-scientists, philosophers, naive realists, scientific realists, people who don't believe in reality, all work together for a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world. And if you don't, then go to the bar and get drunk and argue.
Mm. That can be fun too. What has been your most important work? I think you have provided a lot of wellness to the world in your many years of contributions to humanity. What has been your most important work?
Whatever it is, it won't be remembered in 2 generations from now. So, my most important work is that I questioned and was skeptical about skeptics. I'm a radical skeptic. That's my most important contribution. Radical skeptic.
Hmm. Interesting. Cool. I don't have much to say to that answer. I just think it's interesting. Last topic before we take a break, before we do the Q&A. God. So how do you interpret the God topic? Do you believe in the existence of an actual God? Do you have a deistic view of God? How do you deal with that?
God is undefinable. If you define God, you limit God. So God is the mystery of existence, which is infinite. And you can't deny that the unmanifest is infinite because it has no form. Even when you get to, like the quantum mechanics guys who talk about the quantum vacuum, this and that, they will say there's nothing happening here. I recently, I misphrased that. I recently spoke to Frank Wilczek. I interviewed him. If you want, I'll send you a copy of my interview. He's a Nobel laureate, discovered something called an anion, which is supposedly the particle for dark matter. And he has this book is called Fundamentals. It's somewhere here. Nobel laureate MIT. And in one chapter, he actually identifies fundamentals. And he says the fundamentals of the physical universe are spin, charge, and mass, which I like very much because none of these are physical entities. they have no location in space time. I asked him that. I said, does spin, charge, and mass have a location in space time? Are they structures? He said, no, they are structureless entities. They're principles that govern the universe. So I'm good. If you call God spin, charge, and mass, I'm good with that. The unmanifest, which is unmeasurable, giving rise to the manifest, which is measurable. I don't believe in a deity, a dead white male in the sky, particularly.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
my
yeah.
God is, in a way, Spinoza's God.
Right.
In a way. But even Spinoza was thinking of an entity. I'm not thinking of an entity. I'm just thinking of the formless that gives rise to the form.
Right. Okay. So
in fact, all form and all phenomena comes from the formless, and we don't know how. Those three riddles that Freeman Dyson mentioned, universe fine-tuned for mind life, our own consciousness, and the unpredictable movement of atoms and particles. That's good enough. That's God.
So the formless that gives rise to the form. When I'm thinking about that, I would say that instead of saying God, because I think when we use the God label, it confuses people. Because
it confuses Western people. It doesn't confuse Buddhists. It doesn't confuse Kashmir Shaivists. It doesn't confuse Vedantists. It doesn't confuse the non-dualists. It wouldn't confuse Plato. It wouldn't confuse Socrates. It wouldn't confuse Heidegger. It wouldn't confuse Wittgenstein. So, yeah, I think God is a dangerous word, and I'm going to stop using it after today, even though I wrote this book. It's called How to Know God.
How to Know God.
The basis of this book is, if you know God, then you don't know God.
Interesting. Because when you say God is undefinable, isn't that in itself a definition?
Yeah, that's what humans do. They give definitions, and that's how they screw themselves up. So here's another definition of God. G, generation. O, organization. D, delivery. How's that?
I can hear all my atheist friends right now just being triggered out of their mind with you talking about this.
G-O-D, how the unmanifest becomes the manifest, how the formless takes an appearance without worshipping this. You are, bottom line, if you want to know what God is, you are God in drag. And so is every other sentient being.
Oh, I would look horrible in drag.
No, you look pretty good, actually. Even though it's drag, you don't know it. This body that you have right now, it's drag.
I
I
mean,
the only reality of you, Travis, right now is the invisible. The rest is all the disguise.
Interesting. So and with the God thing, like I don't use the label, and I don't adopt any belief in God. So I guess that makes me an atheist, right?
Atheism is another word. It just means non-belief in a particular idea of God. Everybody who talks about God talks about an idea of God. God is not an idea. God is a mystery of existence, and the biggest mystery of existence is not existence. It's our awareness of existence, which we cannot explain.
We cannot yet explain.
Who is saying that? Awareness is saying that.
Sure.
Okay. So before even you say what the question is, you have to exist. And you have to exist as an aware being. Otherwise, you can't even ask the question.
True.
That's it. I think there's nothing to argue.
Yeah, I'm still having a problem just imagining like all of life being away. Like let's say the moment after, like the first second after the Big Bang, right? There's no life as far as we know, but there's still matter.
No, there's no matter. In the singularities, there's the potential for matter. Any scientist will tell you that singularity is not matter. Space-time, energy, information, and matter all exist as potentials, period. So when you say what happened before the Big Bang, it's a wrong question. There was no time, so you don't ask the question. when time begins with the Big Bang.
Well, there was a state of potential. So there's a macro time scale, but then there's a micro time scale that's created by our Big Bang. That's the time that Stephen Hawking's talking about. But the time
Indeed, with
which,
human constructs, my friend,
but
the micro scale is a human construct. The macro scale is a human construct.
I agree.
Convenient to have these constructs, but they don't tell you anything about why there's existence, what happened before the Big Bang, or why the Big Bang happened. Just go and ask. Yeah.
So
we end up with a mystery. Now, if you want to call it mystery, that's good enough. You want to call it God, I don't mind. But
I would say there was at least what there was pre-Big Bang was a state of potential for there to be a Big Bang. Do you agree with that?
No, I agree. The state of potential, but that question is being now addressed 13.8 billion years later, based on our perceptual interpretations of what we call the physical world, when I'm telling you there is no such thing as the physical world.
Interesting.
Let's go for the question.
I got a lot to think about. I want to ask you. I really love asking this question. What inspires you artistically? I'm a piano player. I'm a musician. I'm a singer. What do you do to fuel your artistic urge? If you have one?
Poetry. Poetry is a raid on the inarticulate, as T.S. Eliot said.
And you
can't say what you can say in poetry. You can't say it through logic or math or music.
Interesting. Do you ever publish?
Do
you ever publish your poetry? Or
yeah, it's been published. It's called, in fact, it's called Raid on the Inarticulate, and I just signed a huge contract with Audible to put it into music, and I'm getting a lot of artists to support that project. It'll be out in a couple of months.
Cool. Well, I'll love reading that. Like I'll
send it to you.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of any kind of artistic inspiration. I like to sink my teeth into that, and I love seeing people light up when they talk about the artistic inspirational power of their mind. I enjoy that. Did you your kids growing up, were they artistically inclined? Were they more pulling from scientific inspiration? What was it like being a father?
My son, we grew up, I was in Boston for 23 years in academic institutions, writing books and this stuff. Unfortunately, I was not there too much for my son. So he watched the Patriots and all of that, and ended up making a huge company with Tom Brady and what's his name, Michael Strahan. He owns a company called Religion of Sport, and he's won now 4 Emmys. So he's neither in the scientific world nor in the spiritual world. And my daughter actually was influenced by me, and she's a great storyteller, and she's written 7 books for children on who am I.
I would love to have your daughter on to talk to her. That would be so cool, because I have a dream one day of writing some children's books.
She's amazing. She's won 7 books, and my son is an Emmy award-winning director.
How does that make you feel as a father? Like you have
very,
successful
very
children.
happy, very proud, and also that they weren't unduly influenced by me. So that is a good thing.
And what do they think about your work? Do you get into some interesting debates with them?
We used to, and then when you're with the family, with your wife and children, they've heard you so many times, they just
phase out.
Their eyes glaze. There he goes off again.
I'm intrigued by you talking about your son's work in the religion of sports, because I often say, like, even though I'm an atheist, when I get the most religious in my mind, it's when I'm watching my favorite hockey team, the Vancouver Canucks. Like, I see myself believing in irrational outcomes for the future for my team. I'll be like, yeah, this is the year they're going to sneak into the playoffs. They're going to win the Stanley Cup. And I get filled with this charge, and I get so excited. And I'm just like, and I catch myself, and I'm like, what good reasons do I have to believe that this is at all, likely to happen? And I'm like, yeah, it's absolute zero.
I wrote a book with Leonard Malodno, and very interesting history. When I was having that debate with Michael Shermer and Sam Harris at Caltech, this physicist gets up. He says, I'm a physicist. I've done 2 books with Stephen Hawking, and you're full of shit, basically. He told me that. And that appeared everywhere online.
Yeah.
And it's recycled. Real scientist proves Deepak Chopra to be a pseudoscientist.
Right.
And it's still recycled. So I wrote to Leonard afterwards. I said, Leonard, you know everything about science. I don't. I know everything about consciousness. You don't. Why don't you come and meet me in Central Park and we'd write a book together? And so he agreed, And so we wrote this book. It's called War of the Worldviews. It's somewhere lying here. And, by the way, since we're on this topic, Richard Dawkins had Stephen Hawking's daughter call Leonard and said, don't do a book with Deepak. He's a fraud.
Oh, wow.
And so Stephen Hawking's he's a co-author of Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking's daughter even threatened Leonard, and I'm happy to say this now, it's past history, to not invite him for his 70th birthday. Now, Leonard has run, we're talking about scientists, real luminaries that we all respect. Okay, so first Dawkins calls Stephen Hawking's daughter, who calls Leonard, says, don't do a book with Deepak, he's a huckster. And you may not be invited to his birthday party. Leonard responded very beautifully. He said, I know Deepak very well. I don't agree with him mostly on anything, but he's not a huckster. He's very genuine and authentic, and I'm going to write the book. Anyway, he got to the birthday party too. Now, we wrote the book. We went on a tour, and we got to know each other very well. Okay. So I know that he wrote all the books that Stephen Hawking is supposedly written, because
Right.
Stephen took 3 minutes to answer a question through his computer. Yeah. And then Leonard would have to guess, what he meant. But Leonard and Stephen got along so well that he knew. So I give Leonard a lot of credit for his patience. And he wrote 2 books with Stephen, and now he's written another book on Stephen's life.
Right.
So anyway, we went on a tour, and we would argue good-humoredly. Then he would tell me at the end of the day, shall we meditate together? Because we would meditate together.
Yeah.
In the morning, as we were taking a flight, we would meditate together. And then, once in a while, he would say, Deepak, I don't believe in God, but I'm going to tell you something that you'll find astonishing. I do believe in aliens. Good enough.
Little green men.
Here we are speculating whether there's life on other planets. If there is, that's amazing. And if there isn't, that's amazing. In fact, it's more amazing if we happen to be the only planet where there is life amongst 2 trillion galaxies, 700 billion stars, and uncountable planets. If we are the only one, wow.
Yeah. I agree with you. Well, that whole story, like all that stuff, if Richard was calling to try to get you not to go to the birthday party, not to get people to work with you, I think that is the crap I would like to see eradicated from the intellectual community.
Yeah, he went to Caltech and he said, and Michael Shermer actually texted it me, because Michael now, he's still the preeminent skeptic, but we are very good friends. Michael has endorsed some of my books. We talk to each other, and Michael said, Richard thought you are more dangerous than the most fundamental of radical religious fundamentalists.
Yeah, and look, I think this idea.
And then he's so emotional, he cuts me off Twitter.
Yeah, I think we need to get over that. We need to be able to have conversations with people, even if they hold ideas that you detest. Like, and I'm sure Richard detests a lot of the ideas you talk about.
We have no idea where we get our ideas from.
Yeah, and I think he would probably agree with that, because
he's a very intelligent human being. But even as 5-6 years ago, when I was engaging him with the conversation with my co-author Rudy Tanzi, the guy who's head of genetics and at Harvard, and Richard's thing is epigenetics is the fashion of the day. It has no reality. He's still stuck with his selfish gene.
Yeah, well, these are some hot takes. I appreciate you sharing that information.
I've shared for the first time in public all of these stories, so
Yeah.
please publicize them.
Oh, I will for sure. And everyone, I've just enjoyed this conversation so much. I have so much more I want to speak with Deepak Chopra about. Maybe we can do a live event in 2022 if you're
We
up
do
for
a
it.
live event provided you promise to read the material I
I
sent
will
you
read absolutely all of
and
it,
watch the videos I sent you. Okay?
100%, and we can talk
Then
about those.
I'll do whatever you want.
Very
Okay?
cool. Well,
Okay.
everyone, the man, the myth, the legend, Deepak Chopra, you've been so kind to come on the podcast. I appreciate you so much. And I do think you have done a lot of good and provided wellness to people in a multitude of different ways on this planet. And I appreciate all the work you've done for humanity. And I'm excited for you to be engaging with the Q&A in a little bit here. We're going to have a...
Time is another human construct. Can you tell me how long it'll take?
It'll be about 60 minutes. I afford 60 minutes.
Oh my God.
And I try
That's
to get,
a lot.
yeah, I'll try to move the questions along as quickly as possible. But guys, do join us on Discord. I'm going to say so long to Deepak so we can get a break. But thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it.
When do we come back?
In about a half hour, we'll meet on the Discord server.
Okay, so I presume Frank will know what that is.
Yeah, Frank will know. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Wow. There's a lot of clips to clip out there from the conversation. Amazing stuff. I look forward to having more conversations with Deepak Chopra. Very interesting mind. And everyone, please join us for the Q&A. I'm going to give you guys the links again. You have to be a website subscriber to engage in the Q&A. Go to pang-burn.com/subscription to engage. Yeah, like I said, I think in a lot of different ways, and some might say most of it is placebo. I think he has provided some hope and wellness to people all around the planet. And of course, there are many conversations to be had about, whether these are helpful ways of going about this. But I think this is what intellectual discourse is all about. I encourage you to not cancel the people that you or cancel conversations with people that you disagree with, that hold ideas that you detest. Engage in the war of ideas with them. Engage in this movement that I call the intellectual warm blanket. Some other people I know call it the intellectual dark web, but I just think that's creepy and weird. It's the intellectual warm blanket. You can put your arm around your friend and disagree with them. And that's how I feel about people I disagree with. So I hope you guys approach your conversations in that way. Please join us on Discord. Our Discord server is the hub for everything Pangburn. We have daily voice chats and conversations. Sometimes we just sit in the Trav's Tavern. You'll see the voice chat area where we just hang out and just make each other laugh and bullshit sometimes. Sometimes we'll get into more robust discussions, but I really appreciate that conversation I just had with Dr. Chopra. There's a lot to unpack there, and there's a lot for me to meditate on. And thank you all for coming and engaging in the chat. And Aurora, when I say war, I mean war in you're going to go out and play in the playground with your friends and play war. That's the way I use war. When I say war of ideas, it's the same way you used to go and find a stick that looks like a gun or a weapon or a wand to cast a spell, and you'll engage in war, and then you'll go have your snack together. That's what I mean by war and the war of ideas. Anyways, thank you guys so much. I'm going to take a quick break here. In a half hour, join us in a half hour on our Discord server. And I'll be happy to engage with you guys and engage in this Q&A. Thank you guys so much. And as always, let art and science inspire. Subscribe!